Patrick, what was throughout your journey so far on online, so to speak? What was the greatest lesson that you've learned about yourself?
This is quite deep.
Have you listened to my podcast?
Yeah, once or twice. You know what? I'm gonna paraphrase my friend's saying. So, firstly, they're going to mock you. Then they're going to admire you, and then they're going to imitate you. So my biggest lesson, at least, I'm lucky enough to have had a short journey here. So I've gained quite a following in a short space of time. I consider myself quite lucky, but along the way, yes, there have been periods where I thought, is this worth it at all? What am I giving up to do this? I'm actually showing my face, being at my most vulnerable, right? Just to further this cause that I'm not even getting paid for at the end of the day. But it lights me up. It gives me a sense of purpose, and I feel that besides the world needing a shake-up, people need to listen to someone who is unbiased, unencumbered by any, let's say, organization or ulterior motive, to tell them the facts the way they are. And I feel that with me, what you see is what you get. So when I am speaking, my videos are very minimal, and the content that I give is literally me talking. So we had a good chat, we met before, and I think you are pretty much the same, because you are the same on this podcast as you are in real life. Yeah. And I feel that the greatest lesson that I found, at least so far, is to be true to yourself. Saying it sounds cliche. In a way, authenticity, yes, but I feel that, especially in the financial sector, that we are so caught up in this facade, in this professional facade, that we become our own worst enemies, because the younger generation clearly want more authenticity. They don't want people in suits talking, to put it mildly, or lecturing or preaching about concepts which they cannot relate to. They want proper, practical, advice. And my mentor, actually, Karen, she gave me probably one of my biggest lessons back when I was my former employer. Because I was very much like that. I used to take my professional Patrick to work, right? And then at home I'll be my personal Patrick. And she told me, Patrick, no, I know this is how you've been taught. Because society and the firms that I was at taught us this professional distance, professional skepticism, etc., etc. But you are not professional Patrick and personal Patrick. You are one person. You take your troubles to work. Yeah. You take your whole self. So be yourself, voice your concerns, and above all, communicate. Yeah. And it is, I think, through that authentic communication that I try and portray something that really is, not something that I or is a facade of myself or what I want it to be or something. I am, or I try to be, myself.
Yes. I'm going to challenge it a bit, Patrick. Was this something that I've stumbled upon thinking very, very recent? So it's quite a raw thought in my mind as well. I agree with what you said. I'm the type of person who is involved in various projects at the same time. So I wear different hats. Even in one day, I have to wear different hats. And I always bring Daniel to what I'm doing, So whether I'm at work, whether I'm doing a podcast, whether I'm shooting a video, I bring Daniel to that. So I don't associate myself with the role that I'm doing in that particular time. So I try to be as authentic as I can. What I found myself in is that I'm taking that into my personal life as well. And it is a double-edged sword in the sense that when you're out with friends, you can't be the Daniel who's doing the podcast, you can't be the Daniel who's coaching people, you are Daniel the friend. And that becomes a little bit blurrier, especially when you're a professional, you're an accountant, for example. So, or I'm in the field of mental health and psychology. People tend to associate you with that. So it's very hard. I have this problem, and you're trying to solve me. You come from a financial point of view. I come from an employment and mental health point of view. So it's very hard to remove that cap, that professional cap, so that you can be the friend, casually meeting up in a human way, meeting up with, being there with friends and family alike. So and that is where I'm challenging that concept at the moment in my personal life, because I firmly believe that authenticity goes a long way and it is important. However, we have to remember to let go sometimes, and that there's a place and time for everything and everywhere.
100%, especially 1000%. When you're self-employed, when you're, let's call this nice word, entrepreneur,
Yes,
right?
yes.
Another buzzword. It's your work becomes your identity, and that is dangerous, very dangerous, because I'm guilty of it, because I've been told that I'm very passionate about education, about financial education. I'm very passionate, but that passion can wear you down, and that passion can consume you into spending. 10 p.m., I'm not a night owl, but 10 p.m. I'm still editing videos, and I wouldn't wish it on anyone. And it is that reason why I think the creative economy, if you can call it that, needs to address this, because it can be all-encompassing. And if you don't take a step back and be in silence, as you say, and relax a little, you can go into a very dark place. So I'm fully with you. I'm fully with you. What I in turn challenge my own industry and my own profession. So I am an accountant by profession, but I'm more of, I don't like labels, right? And don't want to be constrained by a label. But let's say I'm a financial advisor. I'm not going to give a polished version of myself. This is the way things are over here. These are the pros and cons, This might be your dream job, it might not, for example, but I want to be able to relate to people, even on a one-to-one, but especially to communicate. I felt my experience, and you are much more qualified than me to say this, so it's not in my domain, but whenever there was constant and ongoing and frequent communication, I felt safer, and I felt that it was more of a symbiotic. There were more benefits to a relationship when communication was more flowing and ongoing. So now there's that movement on quiet quitting, right?
Yeah.
Whatever that means, but it's a breakdown in communication, I would imagine.
Communication is tricky because for us to communicate effectively, we have to ask, at least from in what I believe in, okay? For us to communicate effectively, we have to know certain aspects about ourselves, where we stand, the way we position us in that particular context and the situation. So, for example, we're having this chat. At the moment, I'm thinking, okay, what is my position with what Patrick is saying? And that is where I challenge that concept. So I was able to, because I thought that I was able to communicate my thought, which are aligned, but at the same time branch out from that concept as well. So effective communication requires a certain level of self-awareness. Now, when there is the absence of or an imbalance of that, we have to be patient with one another. And patience is a virtue as well.